The Rest Stop with Brad Restituto.
Comes up in the pocket, fires to the right side, caught by Diggs. Stay up! Oh my God! Oh my God! Touchdown! Are you kidding me? It's the Minneapolis Miracle! I got 3 words for you. You like that?
Welcome to the Rest Stop. Do you like that? I will tell you this, coming the new year, we will be changing that opening. No more Viking stuff. As I said, they are dead to me, so that will be a new opening coming in 2021. But this is a Tuesday edition of the Rest Stop. Brad the Believer, your host, Spencer the Wiz, joins me as always, and we are live every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 o'clock Pacific time. If you miss any part of the show live, make sure you go to twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. Download the Twitch app, watch us live there, subscribe, like. And if you miss any of that on your way home from work, on your way to work, before bed, listen to the podcast version, Apple Podcasts, Audio Boom, Google Podcasts, whatever your podcasting platform pleasure may be. You can look for Landry Football Conference Call, and the Rest Stop will be underneath there. We've got a good show for you. Today, we're going to recap the Monday night game from last night as the Buccaneers fall at home to the Los Angeles Rams. 2 wins in a row for the Rams coming off their bye. Sean McVay, Jared Goff get the job done and get the Rams in prime position for a playoff push here late in the season. And Tom Brady been inconsistent here over the last month along with his Buccaneers teammates. They look to get back on track here this next week, but they got a tough matchup. I believe they take on the Chiefs this upcoming Sunday. We're 2 days away from Thanksgiving. We got some great Thanksgiving Day games. Chris Wynn, who checked in, he's excited because every Turkey Day, his Detroit Lions are in action, and they decided not to show up this past Sunday in Carolina as P.J. Walker led the Carolina Panthers to a 20-0 victory. But the Lions will always find a way on Turkey Day to erase what just recently happened and find a way to play their best game on Thursday against the Texans team that could be had. So that'll be the game that starts us off on Turkey Day on Thursday. So we'll break down those matchups. There's 3 games on Thanksgiving Thursday, and we'll break those down and give you our picks for those. We'll recap our Week 11 picks. The Believer finally got back on track with a nice 8-5 record. Probably should have been 9-4, but I took a mulligan and I went from Raiders to Chiefs. That ended up not working out for me. Spencer the Wiz has digressed a little bit. He was at 60% about 3 or 4 weeks ago. He's come back down to the mean, but we both are expecting to have strong weeks coming back here in Week 12. Yes, we will talk about the Joe Burrow devastating injury, the number 1 overall pick of the Cincinnati Bengals. Lost for the season, torn ACL, MCL of the knee in this past Sunday's game against the Washington football team. Tough injury for that franchise and for that young man who looks like a future star, but we don't know how he's going to bounce back from that type of injury. It's really a tough one to come back from and be what you were before that. So we'll have to monitor that. We'll give you our opinion there. NBA free agency is rampant, Spencer the Wiz, left and right. Guys getting signed, teams getting stronger, getting ready for this pandemic-shortened offseason as they just finished the bubble. And the Lakers were crowned champs. And now free agency is in a frenzy. The NBA draft just completed and trades going left and right. So we'll get into that also. There he is, Spencer the Wiz. He's with me as always. Follow him on Twitter at Spencer the Wiz. He also has Blue Milk Boys Gaming, his YouTube channel, and he does his own sports show every Friday here locally in Las Vegas, AM 1400 KSHP. The name of the show is Delivering Sports. And I was supposed to be a guest this past Friday. I only made a 15-minute appearance before I got exiled by some sickness. Hopefully, Spence the Wiz will be gracious enough to invite me back on in the future. Spence, tell all the listeners out there where they can find everything that you've got going on. One of the busiest mans in Las Vegas sports and media right now, the talented Spencer the Wiz. Spence, tell them what's going on with you, my friend.
Yeah, so Blue Milk Boys Gaming is like my main center of content, but the Blue Milk Boys main podcast is back. We're doing another episode. We just did 2. We're doing a 3rd one for the new episode of The Mandalorian. And we usually have like tons of random stuff we talk about. It's really just a pop culture podcast. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate the support. But yeah, and then Delivering Sports is on KSHP 1400. I'm your Friday night talk show. So that starts at 7 p.m. local time in Vegas. And everything else, if you want to find what I have going on, just follow me on Twitter at Spencer the Wiz. Trying to funnel everything into my Twitter account just so I can, I'm not separated into 20,000 different places at once.
And thank you to Brian Bravo, Chris Wayne, everybody listening right now. Make sure that you tune in. We made an executive decision Thursday, Thanksgiving Thursday. We will be broadcasting live 9 o'clock Pacific time. We will recap all of Thursday's Thanksgiving Day action. So make sure you join us. We'll have some fun stuff in store for you on Turkey Thursday, 2 days from now, as the grocery stores are jam-packed right now, Spence. Everybody's doing their last-minute holiday shopping. The stores are out of stuff. They're not adhering to Governor Steve Sisolak's rules of 25%. They're all jammed in. There's no social distancing. It's all hogwash. He gets up there. He's caught COVID himself. He gets on there with his mask, and he tells everybody what to do. He's full of horse crap.
What kind of genius puts a lockdown order in the middle of a Thanksgiving holiday? Can't you wait until like at least a day after? You're not going to stop people from going into the store and getting stuff they need for their Thanksgiving dinner. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Anybody that's listening out there that's not here in the Las Vegas Valley, our governor's name is Steve Sisolak. He caught the COVID about 2 weeks ago. He's got on television now that Trump's out of office, the Biden Meisters rolling in. He wants to lock everything down, shut it down. The cases are jumping up and down, and he's locking it all down. He's saying 25% capacity, reservations only on restaurants, no gatherings. If you gather with your family and you don't have a mask, we'll write you a ticket. We will arrest you. We will throw you in jail with everyone else that's got COVID. It's just lunacy out there on the Las Vegas streets. Nobody's adhering to the rules. The grocery stores don't give a crap. They're still packed full of sardines in there. Line after line, no social distancing, not enough consistency with the sanitation. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous out there, and it's bull crap. And what are you going to do? You're going to tell people not to spend Thanksgiving with their families. They're going to riot in the streets. They're going to start losing their minds, throwing rocks, throwing Mazel Tov cocktails or whatever. Let's just all calm down. All the politicians that don't know about the average working American man or woman here in this country that can't barely pay their bills. You want to lock crap down more. You want to tell people not to gather with their families. You're just going to piss people off while these idiot politicians still have not passed a second stimulus. It's ridiculousness. It's unbelievable, Spencer the Wiz. We're going to take our turkey sticks and drums, and we're going to toss them at the governor's office and all these idiot politicians that think they know what's going on. They don't give a crap or a rat's ass about the American public. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it always gets really some in like on Twitter and stuff like that they're at restaurants with no masks and all that kind of stuff. So the rules apply to everyone else but them.
Yeah, and we have no money. I have no unemployment. Nobody wants to pay $15 an hour, $12 an hour. They want to give less than mediocre customer service. Every grocery store I go to, every casino, not enough workers, not enough employees. They can't pay them, and they give crap service. Crap! I've got to wait in a line of 30 minutes to see a cashier at a casino. I go to the grocery store. There's 27 people in line, 2 cashiers open, and then the cashier that is open, it's her second day. She doesn't scan all of my items. I lose my mind in the grocery store. I start throwing stuff. I got kicked out. It's unbelievable.
You really get kicked out of the grocery store?
It's unbelievable the idiocy and the incompetence of people here.
You got to walk this back. You really threw that. You really threw that out there. You got kicked out of the grocery store.
This was the thing I didn't want to talk about on air. I told you about. Yes, I got.
You didn't tell me about this.
Yeah, but I said I didn't want to talk about it on air. I tell you in private. Well, now I've spilled.
No, we did not talk about this in private.
Well, I know because I haven't said it yet, but now I've said it.
Okay, now you
about a week ago, I was doing Instacart. The lady, she didn't scan all my items. There was about $200 worth of king crab legs on there. Okay, she forgot to scan them, and then she called manager register 7. And the manager took 20 minutes. We were already in line 35 minutes. I was telling my girlfriend I'm going to lose it. I'm glad you're here. I'm freaking out. Like I'm like losing all my patience. And then the manager finally came up and said, "Oh, there's nothing I can do." I said, "Nothing you can do." I grabbed the crab legs. I said, "I'm taking them with me." I threw like Jameis Winston. I threw them in the cart, all $200 worth. I start rushing out the door in the cart.
Right. They
try to stop me. I almost bowl someone over. And then one of the security guys puts his hand in my cart. I ripped it out of his hand. And I was about to just leave and run everybody over. But my girlfriend insisted that I calm down. And she told me to leave and go to the car. And if it weren't for her, it would have gotten a lot worse. But yes, they told me not to come back in. And they're messing with my money, Spence. I do Instacart to make a living.
That's crazy.
They're telling me there's nothing they can do, so I've got to get on with customer support of Instacart for 40 more minutes after I already waited in your line 40 minutes. I'm like, what is the incompetence of you morons at the grocery store? Why don't you hire somebody for $15 an hour that knows what they're doing instead of not having enough people to work? Okay, that's enough of this. We cannot continue on this because it'll take up the whole show. This is unbelievable.
We're doing a secondary podcast after this about grocery store workers.
Oh man, because let me tell you,
the lunch stop, we'll call it.
The lunch stop, dude. Let me tell you, I will go on for about 25 more minutes about the S that I've been having to experience doing Instacart with all this idiocy amongst workers out there. You know, it's unreal. Okay, Spence, let's start off Monday Night Football last night. Your boy, Tom Brady, you call him Noodle Arm Brady.
That's right.
They had a nice win last week, scoring 40-plus points. They cannot repeat the performance. I believe Brady's 1-3 in primetime games this year, and it's not good last night for Tampa Bay. Big road win for the Rams. McVay, 2 straight wins off the bye. Jared Goff threw the ball over 40 times. He had 30-plus completions. It wasn't anything that necessarily blew you out of the water with the Rams offensively. Cooper Kupp had a nice game. They didn't really run the ball up and down the field. The game was close for 57 minutes, and the Rams tried to use a little clock. They kicked the field goal with under 2 minutes left. 1 timeout left for Tampa Bay. They trusted that defense, and the defense got it done. Brady threw a pick down in the fourth quarter, and the Rams were able to run out the clock.
Yeah. There's one thing is kind of the big point of contention is, first of all, the defense isn't nearly as good as everyone said it was going to be. People were just overrating the heck out of them because last year they had a lot of sacks. They have no coverage guys, so that's going to be a problem week in and week out. We've seen that against Carolina and everything too. But the one thing that's the big point of contention is we know he has great receivers, but his offensive line isn't nearly as good as it was for New England. That was kind of the whole thing throughout his entire career, was that Tom Brady was protected and he had time in the pocket. He doesn't have that much time at all anymore, it feels like. He's not maybe taking sacks, but he has to get the ball out of his hand much quicker. He likes to let the play develop. And we're seeing him just making bad decision after bad decision. Maybe that comes in, like, he's just not, they haven't had enough time with the guys. His offensive line is, maybe he likes a complicated line system in which he calls audibles. I don't know what the case may be, but all I know is that when he has a hand on his face, but that we've seen that throughout his career too. We saw it in the Super Bowl against the Broncos. They were to win that game because they got to him. So people are getting to him now, and he's just chucking it up. He ain't got the arm strength he used to anymore. It's all coming kind of into one big point. Although it's funny to me that Bruce Arians is one of the funniest coaches in the league. He doesn't care what people think. He will not give politically correct answers. He called out Tom Brady. He said he's not doing it in practice. I don't know why he's doing it in the game. So I feel like there's a little bit of maybe there's some problem in the locker rooms that will come out maybe in the off season when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Bruce Arians better be careful, Spence, because it's not Bruce Arians' team. It's Tom Brady's team. Okay, so Bruce Arians can run his mouth all he wants, but what is he going to do about it? What's he going to do? Is he going to bench Brady? That's not going to happen. So Bruce Arians better get in line because he's second in command. He better understand what the deal is. Well, Ronald Jones, who had over 120 yards last week, had 20 yards. Leonard Fournette had about 6 drops.
He's awful.
Okay. I know Brady, is very up and down, but he didn't get tons of help offensively. I mean, Mike Evans is Mike Evans. What has Antonio Brown done since he signed with the Bucs? Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
So it's time for some of the other guys to step up a little bit. Brady, of course, has got to play better. Arians, I don't know why he wants to run his mouth about Brady. What is he going to do? He's not going to do anything. So he needs to fall in line and coach better. Look, you're not running the offense clearly, so get your ass on defense and figure out what's going on with Todd Bowles and the defense. Okay, because Jared Goff shouldn't be going up and down the field throwing it 37 times and controlling the clock. I mean, Arians needs to quit talking and figure out a way to be more consistent. That's what I think about Bruce Arians, because he is not going to bench Brady. He's not going to do anything. Brady can do whatever the hell he wants to do, and nobody's going to do a thing about it. So figure out a way to get Gronk more involved. Figure out a way to use the tight ends. Get Antonio Brown the ball. If you can't run the ball, I don't know what you need to do. Maybe you need more running backs that can catch. Okay, where's Shady McCoy? Didn't they sign him? Where's he at?
They should trade for a guy like Jalen Richard or something. But I think Bruce Arians just loves being a personality. He wants to be the head honcho. And I don't think he thought this Tom Brady signing all the way through. Not that they'd be better with Jameis Winston necessarily, but I don't know what the answer to that question is. But I don't think Tom Brady and him don't seem to get along very well. And Tom Brady likes to keep this stuff private, so we'll never know about it unless Bruce Arians starts saying it. But he's throwing shade at him. He did it earlier in the year with Rob Gronkowski, and everyone's like, you're not getting him nearly involved enough. And then lo and behold, after the game, he goes, we don't really care. We're going to get him when he's going to get the ball when he gets the ball. So, I mean, I don't expect Bruce Arians to change. I don't have a lot of expectations for this Bucs team. I thought they were going to be a playoff team. They still are on track. They were on pace to win 10 games. That's kind of the prediction going into the season. And it looks like they're going to do that. So maybe we're just being overly harsh on them. It seems weird when they lose, and the way they lose, it just doesn't feel good about their long-term success.
All right, well, here's the thing, Spence, and everybody in the chat. You can say what you will about Brady. He's underperforming. You can get on Twitter and type your keyboard about how Jameis Winston throws for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. And all of you jabronis' lifetimes, anybody who doesn't like Tom Brady, all of your lifetimes combined, how many times has Tom Brady been to a Super Bowl or won a big game? It's way more times than he's lost it. Okay, so I don't care what he does now. He's going to be in the NFC playoffs in some form or fashion, and he's going to be in a big game against an NFC East winner, against an Aaron Rodgers, who they smashed about 4 weeks ago, against an Arizona, a Seattle, which, some of these quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, like Aaron Rodgers, have won big games. Well, Brady's going to be in that spot again. And you want to bet against Tom Brady in that spot with Mike Evans and Gronk and Antonio Brown? Be my freaking guest, okay? But I'm going to say more times than not, if you got to give me Brady and his crew against whoever they face against, I'm not betting against Brady. So he's not doing his best right now. He's very inconsistent. But let's see what happens come playoff time, because more times than not, in all of your guys' lifetime, Brady wins that big game. He finds a way. And
You're fired up tonight, Brad. I love it.
He's got more talent around him than he's ever had. So that's great. That's fine. Everybody wants to whitewash Brady and they want to bring Jameis back in the mix. Fine. Jameis has never won a big game in the NFL level. Okay, he hasn't. Tom Brady has won more playoff games than Jameis has won regular season games, I bet. I don't got the stats in front of me, but that's true. So I don't care what you say about Brady now. Okay, like I said, in all of your lifetimes, in the last 2 decades, Brady's won more big games by tenfold than he's lost. And he's been in more Super Bowls than anybody that you could think of combined. So I don't care what you think about Tampa Bay and Bruce Arians now. Come playoff time, I'm betting on Brady, period.
So you're saying they're going to make the Super Bowl?
Yes, I'm saying they're going to make the Super Bowl.
Okay, I wanted to clarify. I don't think they're going to be, but they're definitely good enough to beat like Arizona. Anyone from the NFC obviously is going to lose in the first round. So as long as they get the right matchup, they can go far into the playoffs for sure. Because the NFC is weak for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would normally say Seattle because you know how much I like Russell Wilson, but I think their defense is so bad that even if they get half the running game they got a week ago, they'll be fine. Because if Ronald Jones doesn't run for 20 yards and Leonard Fournette doesn't drop 8 passes, the play action game works a lot better. And look, we bet on Brady the other week, right? When they beat Carolina, because he doesn't put 2 back-to-back together terrible games. Well, they play the Chiefs this week. So I'm not betting against the Chiefs. I don't care who you are. I'm betting the Chiefs in a big game.
I don't know.
Well,
that'll be an interesting one.
It'll be a good game. The Chiefs are 3 right now, -3.
Oh, well, that changes.
It's a shoreline.
Okay.
But look, for the most part, not a lot of people are going to go against Brady having 2 back-to-back bad games. And look, Brady is the king of getting his mind right. He's the mental gold medalist. Okay, this guy is what do you call it? Avocado ice cream. I got the book. It's in my closet. The Tom Brady book. How to be 40 plus and still be a savant. The guy is just a legend. Okay, and he's as hard on himself as anybody that's ever played the position, in my opinion. And when it comes playoff time, I'm betting on him. So there you have it. And that's all you need to know. And anybody that wants to bet the other way, we'll have action and we'll go at it. And you can come on the rest stop and you can lose because the Bucs will beat you come playoff time. And there's not a team that's proven to me in the NFC up to this point that come playoff time that they're going to dominate. The Saints are okay, but look, Kirk Cousins beat the Saints in New Orleans last year. So
yeah, maybe the Rams. The Rams might legitimately be the best team in the NFC now.
It's possible, yeah. I mean, but I'm not trusting Jared Goff in that position.
Well, they went to the Super Bowl before.
Sure, they went to the Super Bowl, but they're not going to the Super Bowl again. I mean, maybe they prove me wrong, but I don't see it happening. So we'll see. We'll see how it happens here in the NFC. Apparently now Drew Brees has 11 broken ribs or whatever. I like Taysom Hill. I mean, I didn't think that he was going to get the call over. I didn't think he was going to get the call over Jameis, but that's the way it happened. And he was a little shaky throwing the ball in the first half, but he came alive in the second half. And I've been saying it for a long time. Look, Taysom Hill was the best player in that Saints-Vikings playoff game last year on both sides of the ball. He single-handedly had the Saints in position to help them get to overtime, and they could have won that game. And it was all because of Taysom Hill, because Mike Zimmer had Drew Brees' number in that game. Taysom Hill is a monster, and you can't stop him up the middle. I think he's like 97% on short yardage situations under 2 yards. So the guy is incredible. I like him a whole lot. If he stays healthy, he's got a better arm than Lamar Jackson, I think, as far as what he can do completely as a thrower. That's my opinion. Some may disagree, but I think Taysom Hill for the next few weeks is going to be a very interesting watch. And look, the Vegas number is not going to move that much, Spence.
No,
it's not going to move that much between Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. So that should tell you something. And it tells me something. So look, maybe the Saints, when Drew Brees comes back, since they have a little more confidence in Hill if he continues to win, maybe instead of getting 15 to 16 snaps a game, he'll get 18 to 22. We'll see how that goes. Spence, final thoughts. What are your thoughts on Tampa? How far can they go? They're pretty far behind in the division now. I would say a couple games. Let's see, who would they match up against in the playoffs? It would probably be Green Bay.
I can look right so I can just give me one quick moment. I'll find it. But just to talk about them just in general for a second, yeah, I don't think they're going to win the division just because the Saints are always a good kind of regular season team. I don't expect them to actually have success in the playoffs again. If Drew Brees is playing, like I know he's going to have rest, but he's coming off of injury. He's a noodle arm, and it's just because he's older, his arm strength's going to get diminished as it goes on. He was terrible in that Vikings game, and I don't expect anything different. That's assuming his injury's fine. I don't even know. Maybe he's going to be out a lot longer than we had first expected. But it looks like right now Tampa Bay is matched up with Green Bay if the season ended today. I don't think the Bucs are going to blow them out again, but the Packers have one of the worst run defenses I've ever seen. So the advantage is, I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay would be favored in that game as a wild card team. Now, if Packers did have some sort of run game and they forced Brady to throw, maybe they'd have a chance. But hey, maybe they start off on the good foot, and they got to hope that the Rams get knocked out, because other than that, I think they have the advantage over every NFC team. I can't think of any other names. The Cardinals are very undisciplined. I would imagine that's going to favor them. The Rams are probably the team that they're going to be the most scared about.
It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of interesting matchups in the AFC and NFC coming down the stretch that are going to be interesting to follow, because these matchups with this extra wild card are going to be very fascinating. And the one seed in both AFC and NFC are the only team that gets the bye this year. So that's going to be crucial to see how that shapes up. Spence, one of the more devastating news in this past Sunday's games, the Joe Burrow injury. And this kid to me looked, I spoke glowingly personally of him every single week, and I wasn't the only one. A lot of people saw how good that this guy, the steps he was taking so early. You mentioned you putting blame on the Golden State Warriors for the Klay Thompson injury and some of the injuries they've had in that franchise. I'm going to take your angle, Spence, in this one, and I'm going to put a lot of the blame on the Cincinnati Bengals, coaching staff, front office. You put this rookie out there and throw more pass attempts per game than any other team in the league. He was on pace to throw the ball 50 times against the Washington football team, and you're backed up inside your 5. He gets his leg caught up, and ACL tear, MCL tear, he's gone for the year. And this is a very tough injury to come back from in 1 year for a quarterback. And it's just terrible news. Joe Burrow is a rising star. The greatest college football season by a quarterback ever last year. So dynamic with LSU. He steps right in and plays solid football, puts his team in position to compete almost every week, aside from 1 or 2. And then they just sit him back there, Spence, and drop back and throw time after time after time. Ask him to extend plays with his legs, run. And I know you didn't have Joe Mixon in the lineup, but you have Giovanni Bernard, who started many games for Cincinnati over the years. And you just put this guy at risk. Over 26 pass attempts in the first half. I was watching that game closely because I had a bet on Cincinnati, and they were in the red zone like their first 4 possessions. Another idiot kicker, Randy Bullock, missed the extra point and a chip shot field goal, and then he bangs a 53-yarder. So more crappy kicking by kickers, but and then a turnover inside the 2-yard line. The Bengals' first 4 possessions were inside the red zone, so they had a really good opportunity to win that game and to be up by a decent margin up to that point. And then Burrow's injury, and I turned the TV off for a couple minutes to go to another game on my computer. And then I come back and Burrow's getting carted off the field. Just devastating news. If you're just a football fan in general, you're excited about the state of the quarterback position in this league with a lot of these young guys playing such good football. And to see this happen to Burrow, it's heartbreaking, man. I really like this guy. He's one of my favorite young players. And Spence, you know it. I've talked about him every week, how high I am on him. And this sucks because the Bengals now will be drafting in the top 6 again. And do you rush Joe Burrow back? What if he's not ready to start the next season? This is a long recovery time for this kind of injury, Spencer.
Yeah, the Bengals took the Madden route in terms of getting Joe Burrow help. They draft T. Higgins. They put the franchise tag on AJ. They have Tyler Boyd. So they put talent around him, but they forgot one crucial thing. You got to give him an offensive line. We knew going into the offseason that they were amongst the worst. And what do? Absolutely nothing. I'm sure he would much rather not have T. Higgins, who's been okay, and have somebody on the offensive line to protect him. Now, I know freak plays can happen. Like on any given play, a quarterback could get sacked and tear their ACL out. That's not what I'm talking about. When you put a guy back there 50 times a pass a game or 45, he was always high. He was always having a bunch of pass attempts. It's a higher volume. It's a higher risk. You should not be forcing your rookie, who your prized possession, the first good player that your franchise has had, and who knows how long on the offensive side at quarterback position, since, I don't know, Carson Palmer, if you even want to count him. And what do? You work him to the ground. He probably would have even had an injury. When you put a guy out in the field to do that much, he's going to get injured eventually. Fact. No one should be doing as much as he was. You got to you got to game plan better than this. I don't know how it gets better in one season. They should probably just sit him another season. Let him play his junior year and see what you can do. Give your team an entire offseason or 2 off seasons to shore up your offensive line to make sure that something like this never happens again, hoping that he does make that full recovery.
Spence, I'm with you. I would strongly consider having him sit the 2021 season. And I know as a competitor, as a quarterback, someone like Joe Burrow, he doesn't want to sit. He's going to do everything in his power to get back on that field at some point next year. So the front office, the general manager, the head coach, they're going to have an important decision to make when it comes to that. And what kind of young quarterback or veteran quarterback are you going to bring in to fill that void while he's still recovering? I don't know. Does a Ryan Fitzpatrick come back to Cincinnati? I don't know. If I was Ryan Fitzpatrick, I would never touch foot in a Cincinnati Bengals organization, building, or anything else. That franchise is a joke. They haven't done crap, jack squat in 3 decades. Carson Palmer didn't want to continue to play there. Zach Taylor, he looks like a joke because he went for a swim in Sean McVay's pool. All of a sudden, he's head coaching material, and he's got Burrow going back throwing 45 times a game. This guy's got to step up as one of these young coaches, or his ass is going to be out before Burrow gets back on the field, because this is BS that Burrow got injured the way he did, and it really stinks for football fans and for Bengals fans. So we have all of the positive thoughts here at the Rest Stop for Joe Burrow and Bengals fans, and hope that he gets back on that field as healthy as possible and has a flourishing, fantastic career like everybody expects. Spence, later in the show, we'll get into some NBA free agency talk. Any part of the show that you miss, check out our podcast version of the show, LandryFootball.com. You can search Landry Football Conference Call. The Rest Stop will be on any of your podcasting platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Audio Boom, all of that good stuff. Search Landry Football Conference Call, The Rest Stop. Spence, let's go over our Week 11 picks, and we'll highlight some of the games of importance that we'll break down. Let's start off with the Eagles-Browns. That was the first game of the matchup. We were both incorrect there. We thought the Eagles would have a good performance. You mentioned that climate in Cleveland. A lot of the wind and the rain is just very, this time of year, very inconsistent knowing what you're going to get. And look, the Browns found a way to win and cover, but I think the Eagles are just that bad.
They are horrible. I just thought that every game's going to be close. I was talking about it with my dad. I can't believe they don't play in a dome. And I guess he was saying they encourage that weather. It's so weird to me. It's like having a specialized field in like baseball, like Wrigley Field or something like that, I guess. But I mean, if Carson Wentz could just shore up these turnovers that he has, first of all, they would have covered, because that's how close this game was. I don't know who it is to blame. I don't know how you go from an MVP, but I know we talk about this almost every week because he just seems to be getting worse and worse every week. He's got to have some sort of Derek Carr level revelation where he just kind of plays the way he used to. Maybe he's playing scared, and maybe the injury has just ruined him, and it'll take a couple of years for him to get his confidence back like it did a quarterback like Carr. I don't know, but how it's so embarrassing to me that someone in the NFC East is going to actually make the playoffs. That's probably the biggest message from this game for me.
Yeah, and the pick that I gave about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the Washington football team still have a chance, as they got to win this past week. So we'll see how they do here on Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, as they're in action against the Dallas Cowboys. Spence, the next game on the list. Actually, one more thought on the Browns. They travel to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars, and they also play the Jets. So they've got a few winnable games left on their schedule. I still don't think they're good enough to win a playoff game. But if they continue to win the games they should, they'll be right there in the conversation for one of those 3 wild card spots. So we'll see. The Browns, Chris Wynn, they're decent because they've decided to have an identity, and that's to run the football. And they're running the football pretty decently, and they're playing admirable defense. But Baker Mayfield, I think he went quite a few games without a touchdown pass. So he got his first in a long time this past Sunday, but I don't think the Browns are good enough to beat anybody in the playoffs, but their record in this new playoff structure might find them a wild card spot in the AFC this year. So they've got a few winnable games left on the slate. We'll see how that shapes up for Cleveland, and the Browns fans will be very excited to see them back in the playoffs if they do get there. Next game, Falcons-Saints. Jameis Winston did not get to start. It was Taysom Hill. I was on the Saints, Spence. The Falcons, in my opinion, are just crap. Matt Ryan is the NFC version of Phillip Rivers, and I just don't think he's any good anymore. And he gets lucky every now and then when Julio Jones is in the lineup, but Julio Jones is not in the lineup enough to give you enough consistency. I think the Falcons stink. I don't know how they have got the wins that they got. They got their ass kicked by the Saints, and I think they play the Raiders next, and you think they'll win. I think the Raiders beat them, and they beat them easily.
Depends on Julio Jones' health, who got hurt in the middle of this game. It's just so disappointing because it really was playing to the script that I thought, where they were going to score a lot of points. They were in the red zone, I think, for the first 3 possessions. They got 3 field goals out of it. I don't know what the track record is, but I'm assuming anytime your 3 red zone possessions are all field goals, you probably lose that game, and that's what it ended up coming down to. They couldn't get any more momentum going throughout the game after the first quarter and a half. I don't know how Dan Quinn is still their head. Or no, he got fired. I don't know who their head coach is going to be, but they got to figure
Brian
something
Morris
out.
is interim right now.
Right. They're going to have to find a coach who's able to inject a little bit of energy. They play so dead, which is kind of the most shocking part of me. There's no energy whenever I watch them. It's just so monotone.
Well, they're not going to have the stones to pull the trigger, but I think it's time to move on from Matt Ryan. He's way too inconsistent, and he can't move. So it's time to get rid of him because his best days are about 5 years behind him, and he was awful this past Sunday. And unless Julio Jones is in the lineup, he's a sitting duck back there in the pocket. So that's that. Next game, the Carolina Panthers. P.J. Walker got the start. I liked the Panthers. I liked P.J. Walker. Not only did they win, but they shut out the Lions 20-0.
He wasn't even good, PJ Walker. He had 2 interceptions, and they still couldn't get a single point on the board. Oh, the Lions are just so unbelievable. A team that's significantly more talented, I think, than the Panthers are, especially with all their injuries. No Christian McCaffrey. You got a guy from the XFL starting who didn't play that well, and you can't even find a way to put any points on the board. It's embarrassing.
And what's up with the Panthers defense? I mean, didn't the Raiders score 30
Everybody
points in
does.
week 1?
Yeah.
And what the hell, Chris Wynn, help us out here. What the hell were the Lions doing on Sunday? How come they can't score? Is Stafford's injury that serious? Where's Kenny Golladay? Where are the weapons? Where's Hawkinson? Where are the people that can make plays on this team? I know they've got playmakers. Okay, Kerryon Johnson's a playmaker. DeAndre Swift, playmakers. Is he hurt? We know. Look, we've been talking about for weeks, Chris, that Patricia is outstayed his welcome for 5 weeks. There was 3 weeks ago. If you go back and listen to the rest of, I said he should have been fired before they came out of the halftime tunnel. Why he's still there, I have no idea. I think Matt Stafford the Detroit Lions franchise has wasted Matt Stafford. I would have Matt Stafford on my team before I'd take about 15 other guys. I like him. I think he's got tons of ability. He can make the throws, and they just do not have a complete coaching staff or team around him, and they continue to disappoint. And it's unbelievable. I mean, we've talked about it, Spence. They could go ahead and beat the Cardinals, the playoff team, on the road, and then they get shut out by the Panthers. Makes no sense.
Yeah, if they actually had a coherent strategy and maybe even a better offensive coordinator, Marvin Jones, TJ Hawkinson, Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Swift, who's been one of the best rookies this season, who's definitely in the top 10 in the rookie class this year. How is he? I don't understand how you keep a guy like that in your office, and you look at him in the eyes every day as the owner or the GM, or the GM should probably be fired too. And just I agree. This is fine. What is the vision? I guess what is their plans that he's going to fix it all by the end of the season? I guess that's what they're banking on.
I agree. Matt Stafford is absolutely a quality QB. What the hell is Matt Patricia doing? He's got to be gone. And I mean, he's supposed to be a defensive coach, and there's been no defense. So look, they were on the fence about Patricia coming in this year. I don't know what they're waiting so long for, but what do you do? Where do you start for the Lions to get this back on track? I mean, do you have to get what position do you start at if you're rebuilding the Lions, or you're trying to get the Lions to compete for a playoff spot? Look, I think it was, and Chris, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the first 6 or 7 games of the year, the Lions had a lead in the first half of every single game. So now they've regressed. They've regressed the last 4 or 5 weeks. Patricia, absolutely. He should have been gone weeks ago. I don't know why they keep hanging on. But who do you want? Who do you want as your next head coach if you're the Detroit Lions? Do you want to bring another swing at a defensive coach? Do you want to hire an Eric Bieniemy? Okay, but I thought we had the magic potion when Jim Bob Cooter was the offensive coordinator, Caldwell. Caldwell was the head coach. Well, Caldwell has won more games as Lions head coach than anybody in the last 2 decades. So you got rid of him. So hire Bieniemy. Well, who does Bieniemy bring on in his defensive staff? That'll be interesting because Bieniemy was a coordinator in Minnesota. He's got ties to the Chargers franchise. He played running back for them. He's got ties to the Andy Reid tree. So I'm curious who an Eric Bieniemy, if hired by somebody, who he brings in as his defensive coach, because the Lions, I just cannot put my finger on it, Spence. it's not like allowing 20 points is a ton of points, but to get shut out by the Panthers, how does that happen?
Yeah, they have a lot of like
who's running the offense over there?
Yeah, you talked about building upon something. Well, I feel like they have the building blocks. You got a guy like Matthew Stafford, who's a franchise quarterback for sure. You got a running back who looks like he can be a legitimate starting running back in the league in DeAndre Swift. You have a wide receiver one in Marvin Jones. You drafted the best cornerback in the draft to come out in a long time in Okudah. He's been playing well from what I can see. And you traded for that very talented linebacker from the Patriots. I guess the defensive line, after they got rid of Ndamukong Suh, I guess that's kind of been a trend that's been going on for a long time where they just haven't found a way to replace him. And now it looks like he's kind of having a really great season for the Buccaneers too. But that's neither here nor there. You're not going to keep your franchise defensive player forever. It's just very rare that's going to happen. So it's got to start with the coach. And then once you find a coach who actually knows how to coach the team, then you find the real deficiencies in the team, because it's not very clear to me right now.
And look, there's going to be some teams that they're going to be looking to acquire Matt Stafford. I really believe that. And if it's a trade or what it is, a team like the Colts, there's about 4 or 5 other teams that look at Matt Stafford and they feel like he's the guy that can get them over the hump. I really believe that. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction the Lions go. Are they going to gut it as a whole when they get rid of the GM, get rid of Patricia? Are they going to get rid of Stafford and totally start new and build around a Swift, a Galladay, a Hawkinson, and then go from there? We'll have to wait and see how that shapes up. Spence, let's go to the next round of games. Houston Texans, they were at home against the Patriots, who had just won a couple in a row. This is a spot I thought the Texans could really come in and get a win. They won outright, Spence. Houston Texans, and they got a short week. They'll be traveling to the Motor City to take on the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. But a nice win for Romeo Crennel, Deshaun Watson, and the Texans. And here's the thing with the Texans: as long as Deshaun Watson is your quarterback, you've got a fighting chance to win any game that you suit up and play. And that's a saving grace. We talked about it, Spence. If it weren't for Deshaun Watson, this could be an 0-16 team. But Watson gives you a chance to be in any game that you play.
No, definitely. And I was on the fence on this game anyways. I could have seen it going either way. I just thought the Patriots would be able to ride a little bit of momentum against just a very depleted and just not very good Texans side. But when you have a all-pro quarterback at your side, somehow they're able to squeak wins out. He was able to have a very good offensive performance. The Patriots put themselves in position to win this game multiple times, and they just didn't. And it looks like they're going to have to figure out the wide receiver position, the quarterback position. They are missing half their defense. Most of their defensive guys aren't even that talented. This is a garbage team that the Patriots are too, and I don't see it getting any better next season, although they will be one of the better defensive teams next season when all their guys who opted out are back, assuming everything's good. But for now, they're just going to continue to lose games, and they're going to lose games that they shouldn't.
Spence, look at that. 3 check marks in a row for the Believers. He had his best week in quite some time picking games. The next one, you were right on, Spence, and you kind of swayed my decision. Steelers against the Jaguars. You said Jake Luton was trash. It ended up coming true for you. The Steelers get the easy cover. It was kind of close in the first quarter, but the Steelers pulled away in the second half.
Yeah, this one was pretty cut and dry for me. Jake Luton won't be in the NFL next year. I'm going to guess he'll probably go to the XFL if it really does end up happening. He had 4 interceptions. This game just really proves to me that I have no faith in the Packers to just win a football game in the playoffs, let alone go to the Super Bowl.
All right, why the Packers, though, Spence?
Because the Jacksonville Jaguars just went in and almost beat the Packers last week.
Well, there you go. That's a good call. So what do you think Jacksonville does against the Cleveland Browns in Jacksonville this upcoming Sunday?
Yeah, the fact that it's a home game makes it a little tough.
So maybe that'll
the
litmus test for the Browns. If the Browns can blow them out, maybe they've got a chance to make some noise in the AFC playoff picture. If they lose or they barely win, maybe we have to rethink that. Although I've been telling you since the beginning of the season, the Cleveland Browns are nothing. So the next game, the Colts against the Packers. Spence, I was surprised. We both took the Colts. You know I'm not a big Colts guy, especially in this spot. There was something about that number. That number was not right to me. And it just – my gut was telling me Colts. We were both right. Colts ended up winning. I think they were behind.
They were down 14 at halftime, so it didn't exactly plan out the way I did. I thought the Colts would dominate this game, but they dominated the second half. Their defense, they made some huge halftime adjustments, and they took care of the football. Phillip Rivers came up in a few big spots, so that's what you get over Jacoby Brissett, as I like to call him. That guy's a terrible quarterback. So if you just have anyone half decent, which is what Phillip Rivers is, and he doesn't turn over the ball late game situations, which he almost did with that fumble, which ended up being an incomplete pass. You're able to take care of business against teams that you should.
Spence, next round of games, Bengals, Washington football team. We talked about the tough Joe Burrow injury. We were both on the Bengals, and I talked about it earlier. They were in the red zone their first 4 or 5 possessions of the game. When Burrow got hurt, took the wind out of their sails. They were unable to convert, and Washington got the job done. Alex Smith, Spence, the whole year, I've been his number one cheerleader. I've been talking about getting him in the lineup. He's at 3 straight starts, and he's starting again Thursday. I'm so excited that this is happening. I called it, and everything lined up for him to get in the starting lineup, and he's playing decent football. He's not blowing anybody away, but you've got to give this guy so much credit coming back from almost losing his freaking leg to throwing for almost 400 yards against the Lions, throwing for over 250 yards against the Bengals, winning the game, and he is not playing terrible football, Spence. He's not playing like a Garrett Gilbert or the other jabroni for Dallas who couldn't even complete the ball. This guy is doing decent with not a lot, okay? I mean, Terry McLaurin's your best weapon. He's got no tight end. He's got no running game. And Alex Smith is finding a way to get the job done, doing what Alex Smith does. I'm so happy for this guy, and I hope they go into Dallas on Thanksgiving Day and they beat their ass.
Well, that's one thing. I don't think that's going to happen necessarily, but he's clearly the best quarterback for the Redskins, who have just a little bit of sprinkled talent here and there. They're not a very holistically good team. They have probably the best secondary in the league, underrated wise. No one really thinks about that or talks about that, but they actually do have amongst the best in the league. I think they still have Josh Norman, who's kind of revitalized his career. Could be wrong about that, but overall, I mean, the NFC East is open. We know that. And I mean, they were able to take care of business. I think they actually would have lost. It looked like they were on track to. I know they had all those messed up red zones, but I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't, Joe Burrow wouldn't have continued to at least get him in the red zone to score some points in an already close game. So this one was just kind of cut and dry. When you lose your star quarterback, you're probably not going to win the football game.
And I'll tell you, we'll talk more about the Redskins when we break down the Thanksgiving Day games. Titans against the Ravens. Ravens were a 6-point favorite. Titans were down. Some of that game came back, brought it to overtime, got a very nice win. Big win for the Titans. And the Ravens are on the downside. They're on the outside looking in of a playoff spot right now. Vikings, Cowboys. I told you, Spencer the Wiz, the Vikings were smoke and mirrors. They were dead to me. I was not back on the bandwagon. They did exactly what I thought they would do, find a way to lose a game they needed to win. Andy Dalton looked like Sid Luckman. He looked like Roger Staubach. Zeke Elliott looked like Emmitt Smith. It was just up and down the field, carving the Vikings defense up like Thanksgiving ham. It was just an embarrassing defensive performance by the Vikings. Kirk Cousins statistically was great, but when he got the ball with 2 minutes left, he couldn't do much. It was aided by a drop by Justin Jefferson. But all of you Kirk Cousins boys, please stop it. I don't care how great a quarterback rating Kirk Cousins has. I don't care about his completion percentage. The point is when you have the ball in your hands on your own 15-yard line with 2 minutes left, down 4 to win the game, I would take 25 other quarterbacks before I take Kirk Cousins. Case closed. End of story. Let's move on to the next game.
25, huh?
25. That
feels like a lot.
Well, we'll name them here next week on the show.
Yeah, that'll be a good segment for next week.
Absolutely. Chiefs, Raiders, Spence. I used my only mulligan of the year. I backtracked. I liked the Raiders, and then I went the other way. The Raiders were winning most of that game, the Las Vegas Raiders. Spence, I'm going to give you the floor here. You got a lot of thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah, this is the first game I was able to watch with my dad actually this season. So my dad's a truck driver, and we got to check it out. So first things first, Jonathan Abrams shouldn't be on the team anymore. If they get a third-round pick for him, I think that would be a miracle and a godsend. You're talking about one of the worst safeties I've ever seen in the league, a guy who's 20 yards out of position diagonally. I didn't even know that was physically possible. Somehow he's the deep safety in that. So that I'm talking about the final touchdown of the game, of course. But I guess one of the bigger stories of the season has to be Derek Carr. I know I've been his number one critic throughout the past couple of years, but obviously he didn't play this way the past couple of years. I don't think it has anything to do with his weapons. They're relatively the same. Henry Ruggs was one of the worst draft picks in Raiders history. I said he was going to be the next Jacoby Ford, and I'm 100% correct. He might be worse than Jacoby Ford, which shouldn't even be possible. A guy who went to the CFL 6 years into his career. Henry Ruggs will probably be in the XFL before too long. He has no talent in terms of catching the football. He has no route running skills. And what do you know? Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb are just as good as I thought they would be. I would have taken Jerry Jeudy over CeeDee Lamb. It looks like CeeDee Lamb might be the better receiver. So I was technically wrong about that. And to say that either of those guys are not receivers you wouldn't want to have your team is a fallacy. Cleveland Farrell is one of the worst defensive ends I've ever seen in my life. The Raiders have no all-pro talent on their defense. They don't have any Pro Bowl talent on their defense outside of Max Crosby, a fourth-round pick from Eastern Michigan. It's just so frustrating to see that a team that finally can pick it up when it comes to the offensive side of the ball for the first time in a long time to now we're back to square one because the Raiders can't possibly win a football game when your defense is that bad. The only players that will be on this defense in 2 years is going to be Kiwatowski, probably Carl Nassib. Trayvon Mullen will be on the team. Isaiah Johnson will not be. Damon Arnett is the best tackling corner in the league. He's actually gaining a little bit of momentum. He's better than I thought he would be. Other than that, Nicholas Morrow, I don't care if he had the best game of his life last week against the Broncos. He's another guy that will eventually be cut. Coy Littleton has been one of the worst linebackers in the NFL statistically. He'll be gone. And then you have the other jabroni, if we're going to keep using that word tonight, they got from the Saints too. Hasn't been hurt. He's been on the COVID list. Meaningless. There's a bunch of meaningless players on the team who shouldn't deserve a starting spot in the NFL.
Spence, we're going to get into some more Raiders talk on Thursday, our Thanksgiving Day edition of the Rest Stop, because I want to talk more about that, especially here locally. But this show's flying by, Spence. We're almost wrapping it up here. But so let's fly through the rest of the games on the list. Rams last night against the Buccaneers. We talked about that game. Rams got the cover. C-Win had them outright on the money line. He got himself a C-note victory there. Me and Spence were both on the Rams. Nice little win there. We should have sprinkled some on the money line. Spence, we got fooled by the Dolphins. This number was weird. Traveling to Denver. Denver and Vic Fangio, they got the troops together. Tua didn't have his best game as a Dolphin, and they lost that game outright, Spence.
This is the exact Dolphins performance I've been waiting for the past 3 weeks. I said when Tua comes in, he's going to struggle a little bit. They don't have the most talent on their team. Like if you look at their roster, if you go down, they shouldn't be at their record. I don't know why they're playing out of their minds for the last few weeks. I'm telling you, they're playing the Jets next week, so I don't think they're going to lose necessarily, but when they start playing better teams, they're going to start losing. I'm still very high in the Dolphins in the future. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying you got a young quarterback who isn't nearly as talented as someone like Pat Mahomes in his rookie season. I think he'll be a fine quarterback. He just needs time. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is fine. Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm going to finally fade against them. It's just, of course, they waited for me to go for them before they started doing it.
Spence, last game, the Los Angeles Chargers, they finally get a win, but they don't cover against the is it the 0-9 or 0-10 Jets?
0-9, right?
Something like that. The Jets, and we're gonna soon be on Jets watch because the Believer's got an 0-16 ticket in his William Hill account. And I'm counting down the games for the Jets to continue to lose, although their offensive attack is starting to pick up a little bit. So I hope they don't have a letdown and start to win a game here, but I don't believe they can. They have a horrible coach. They're a joke, and they barely got the cover this past week. So there's our record. Spence, is this right? You've moved to 50%
exactly.
The Believer was 60% this week. Good job. We'll see. The Believer's coming. He's going to start getting himself back towards that 50% by the end of the year. Spence, we're flying through this one, so let's break down the Thursday Thanksgiving Day games, and it starts off in Detroit. The Houston Texans, the Deshaun Watson, travel to Detroit to take on the Lions. Look, the Texans are a road 2.5-point favorite is what I saw. Initially, I really like the Texans because I like what Deshaun Watson will do on a primetime moment. But this is so weird, man. I'm going to change my mind, and I'm going to go Lions because this is just too weird a spot at home on Thanksgiving. Detroit always plays well, at least what I've seen the last 5 years on Thanksgiving. And I feel like they find a way to get a win.
Yeah, no, they're just a horrible team to watch, but I feel the same way. I think they're going to come out and just be explosive and just score all the points in the world. First of all, the Texans aren't a good team, so it's not like they're going to shock anybody. They're supposed to win this game. So I don't know. Would you say the line was
2.5 favored for the Texans?
Really? I don't know. I think the Lions could easily be favored in this game too. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with you on this one. I think the Lions just win outright. I'll probably take a money line on a ticket for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Next game, the middle game of the triple header on Thanksgiving. The Washington football team travel to Big D to take on the Cowboys. Cowboys fresh off a 31-28 victory on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. Andy Dalton will be under center again for Dallas. Alex Smith for the Washington football team. Dallas, 3-point favorites in that one. Spence, gosh, I really want to go Redskins or football team. I really do. A couple of things that stood out in that Dallas game and something I talked about. Dallas has a lot of talented receivers, and CeeDee Lamb made an incredible touchdown catch against the Vikings on Sunday, and that guy is really good. And Zeke got going. Tony Pollard got going. Gosh, Dallas just has talent. They do have talent. Mike McCarthy finally coached a really good game. I'm going to go Dallas -3.
No, I'm in total agreement with you. Andy Dalton is not a world beater by anyone's definition, but he has brought a team to the playoffs, I think 3 times. I think 3 years in a row the Bengals made the playoffs. I think he's going to do the same for the Dallas Cowboys, who somehow have just survived after being terrible. But we know the NFC East. As long as they can win their in-division games, so I think they can do, they're going to make it. And I think Andy Dalton will somehow bring another team to the playoffs.
Spence, the nightcap has the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Steelers. Noted today that 2 Ravens running backs are in COVID protocol, and they will probably be out Thursday, Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. That being said, the Steelers get their first loss of the year. Ravens get the win, get the cover on the money line Thursday against the undefeated Steelers.
I think Lamar Jackson might stink. We saw that. I'm not saying it's going to be to the level of RG3, who had his amazing rookie season, and the teams figured out that, we just have to be disciplined on the edge. And the same thing that happened with Colin Kaepernick too, to an extent. He's better than those 2 guys, but I know he won MVP, but we all know he doesn't have the juice. That's baseline. He doesn't have that at all. And he's going to be playing against the best secondary in the league. Minkah Fitzpatrick's looking like he's going to be putting up a close to Defensive Player of the Year performance. And you got a guy like TJ Watt on the side who is going for Defensive Player of the Year as well. I see no reason that they're not going to be able to contain him. They're going to be able to force him to pass the ball. Look, they're going to give up a few big chunk plays. Without 2 running backs, you're able to key in on the pass game a little more, which Lamar Jackson isn't good at all in the first place. I think the Steelers take care of business pretty handily.
All right, Spence, we're in agreement, and then we're on opposite sides of that. And everybody, make sure you tune back in Thursday night, 9 o'clock Pacific time. We will be live. We will be live for the rest stop for our Thanksgiving Day edition. Spence, we got a couple minutes left. Let's briefly get into NBA free agency. Specifically, I want to talk about the Lakers. The Lakers recently signed Marc Gasol. They signed Dennis Schroeder. I really like the moves the Lakers have made here in the last month, and I think they're really putting themselves in prime position to repeat. You have on the sheet there DeMarcus Cousins. I believe he just signed with the Rockets. Is that right?
Yeah, I have the Rockets color scheme here. He was just kind of the cover photo for the graphic.
And did not Vegas' own Christian Wood, did he also sign with the Rockets?
He sure did, and on a very good deal. The Houston's made some silently pretty decent moves for the roster.
Those are some pretty good moves. So what does that mean for Houston, Spence, with Harden and Westbrook?
I don't know. It's a multifaceted thing, because on the other side, you still have both of them demanding trades despite all of these kind of good moves around them. Now, you're asking a lot of DeMarcus Cousins. You're asking about a ghost of a player who, if even looking back to his time with the Warriors, when he came off the bench in those finals games, he looked like one of the worst centers I've ever seen defensively in my entire life. So you're really banking on him, and after another big injury, to be kind of what he used to be. I think he can be. There's a lot of pressure going to be taken off of him. No one expects anything from him anymore. You got a guy like James Harden who's going to bring a bunch of attention. The paint should be pretty wide open. So we'll see what ends up coming of that. Christian Wood was a great signing on a great deal, which is cool to see, be a guy be so successful. Derek Jones as well got a pretty good contract somewhere. I think he may have left the Heat, although I don't remember where he went off the top of my head. But to talk about the Lakers while we have, I guess, just a quick minute, they've made their roster better. Not significantly better, but they did make an improvement. No other team in the league has made enough to bridge the gap between them and the Lakers. So the fact that they're better, they should 100% be title favorites once again.
Chris Wynn says the Suns are going to cause problems in the West. Did I not say that already, Spence? Am I not on the Suns bandwagon?
I just don't believe it. When Chris Paul gets hurt in the playoffs and they don't have a backup point guard, it's depend on the playoffs. They're going to get absolutely smoked.
Dude, the NBA is going to be great this year. I'm really excited to see all these free agent moves, and I want to see how it wraps up in the NBA, and I really want to see the competition. I think the Pelicans are going to be competitive. Chris Wynn mentioned Portland, the Suns. Man, it's going to be a great NBA year, and myself and Spencer the Wiz love NBA, so we'll be following that, and along with the draft picks that just got drafted here last week. So make sure you tune in to another live edition of the Rest Stop. Thanksgiving Thursday, me and Spencer the Wiz will be live on Thursday, 9 o'clock Pacific time. Make sure you go to Audio Boom, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, search Landry Football Conference Call. The Rest Stop will be underneath there. Everybody, have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you back there. We'll recap the games. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.